All right, so welcome everybody. Welcome to HackMercedVI. It is the second day of the hackathon, and yeah, you guys are here for the React Native workshop. So just a quick tidbit about me. Who am I? My name is Jet. I am a CSE major or computer science or engineering major at UC Merced. I'm currently a second year, a sophomore. My interest in computer science, I really like computer vision. I think it's super cool. If you guys are doing a project about like OpenCV or TensorFlow or stuff like that, definitely let me know. I always love seeing projects like that. Or if you guys have any questions about it too, just let me know. I'm always willing to talk. Hobbies, I love playing and watching sports, specifically basketball and football. My favorite sports. My weird flex is that I can name all 32 NFL starting quarterbacks right off the bat. So if you guys want to see that, you can always ask me. I'm always down to do it. And I'm also the ACM president at UC Merced. So just a quick plug. ACM is basically the Association for Computing Machinery at UC Merced. So we're basically a club at UC Merced for computer science students. You don't have to be a computer science student, but we focus mostly on all aspects of computer science. So if you guys are a UC Merced student and you guys want to be part of a CS club that works on projects, prepares you for internships, job opportunities, get your resume reviewed, if that sounds interesting to you, and if you're a UC Merced student, sadly we can't just invite it to everybody. Contact Hyro, the one spamming the chat right now, and we'll send you a Discord invite. Or you guys can always message me too. I'm on the HackMerced Discord. So yeah, just quick information about me. So let's get right into it. So you might be asking yourself, like, what is React Native, right? I mean, you guys came here because it sounded interesting, I hope, right? So let's get into it. React Native is basically like an open source JavaScript framework that allows us to write apps in both Android and iOS. So like who here has like written an app before, like an Android or iOS? Like anyone? Anyone? MJ, Hyro, Busher? No? Nobody?
I have no clue, Chief.
No clue? All right, let's see. Yeah, Hyro, yeah. So like so have you guys ever like, so when I was in high school, I would always write Android apps just for fun, because I thought it was super cool when I was a kid. And the issue with like writing an app, for example, like an Android, is like you put all this time and effort to like learn how to like, add a button and add like change the background color in Android. But what if I wanted to make that same app in iOS, right? That would take a lot of time or money to convert the same exact app, but in iOS, right? And if you guys have ever worked with iOS like apps, it's pretty painful. Like it's not as easy as it sounds to just like make an iOS app and convert it. So this is where React Native is super cool because it kind of gives you the best of both worlds and allows you to write apps in JavaScript, which is super cool because if you guys are making your own websites, like with HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, you can apply that same like mentality to a mobile app, which is, I think, super cool. Um, and so you can also create components in your app. So think of components as like small sections of an app, and you can reuse them over and over again. So I know like the one big thing for like websites is like each website has like a component, right? So like if you have like on Canvas, right? Like you guys are using Canvas for your schools, like most of us, right? You know how you have like that sidebar that has like the courses, the profile picture, stuff like that. Each like little like button is a component. And even for like YouTube has like the list of videos, right? That like list of videos is a component, but the videos themselves are also components. So like every website or app you guys have, you can break them down into components, and that's kind of like the whole idea of React Native. You're able to like interact with these components. So it's kind of like I put like a little image on the bottom right just to kind of give you an idea. And so we're basically the bridge between the UI. And so just for reference, the UI is the user interface, what the user is using. So like in this case, it'll be our phones, right? I'm the user, I'm using the phone to interact with the app, and the JavaScript. So what the user doesn't see, hopefully, because nobody wants to see JavaScript, right? If only Adrian is here. Um, so yeah, we're basically the middleman, right? We tell a JavaScript what the user is supposed to like work with, and we handle the logic. When you're using an app, right, you just want simplicity. You want to like press a button, have it do something. You don't want to press the button and like start typing code, right? So just like regular websites, we can use handy tools just like CSS to make our app look pretty. So if you guys have never heard of CSS, don't worry. It's just like I won't say a programming language, but it's a tool we can use to like modify the content on our app to make it look a lot nicer. And we'll see that soon. So part two, the basics of React, states versus props. So it's a very like fundamental part of like React is the concept of props and states. So props are short for properties, and basically think about it as an argument for a function. So just like in any programming language, right, you pass like arguments and you can do whatever you want. Like you can pass in like a number and like multiply it by itself, right? It's classic programming like methodology. And you also have states. States are like the really important, like groundbreaking part of React Native, because that states are basically data that changes over time for a specific component. So think about like a website that has to update constantly, like a stock trading website. So like for example, if you're trying to check the value of Dogecoin, right? We're all investors in Dogecoin. The value of something like of Dogecoin goes up and down constantly, right? And so if you're making a website to track like the stock or the value of like Dogecoin, that value is going to change over time. So the state, right, of that value also changes. And so think about it kind of like as like live data. And so the way I like to think about it is props are kind of like global variables, whereas like you can pass in the prop to like wherever. Like if you have like a component you like wrote that like, I don't know, like makes like a gallery or something, you can just throw in props from wherever and it'll like just take it. But states are more complex in the fact that they're local only to that component, if that makes sense. So if you have like a button component, um, you can have a state to see if someone pressed the button or not, but that's only local to the button, if that makes sense. Whereas like a prop, you can just, it's like a global variable. Um, so yeah, so here's an example of like a state. So you can see when someone clicks the button, you can see that the number changes from 19 to 21 and 4 to 6. That's like a perfect example of state, and you can actually see the code on the side. Um, so you can see that they're pressing the button and it changes the state of the website, right? The number is changing. And so that's kind of like the whole idea of like live data. Um, yeah, so one last thing before we get straight into coding is APIs and JSON. So like what's an API? What even is JSON, right? So an API is basically an application programming interface. And the whole concept is you're contacting a web server and it's giving you information back to you, the user, usually in a JSON format. And shout out to Postman. They had a really great workshop like about an hour ago. Hopefully you guys were able to make it. If not, you can always check the recording in our YouTube. Super great workshop. It goes more in detail about APIs, so I definitely recommend checking it out. But just think about APIs like you're like asking the web server or like a company something like, hey, what is the weather at, I don't know, Merced? And then the server is going to give you information back. And the way they send it to you is in the JSON format. JSON is stands for JavaScript Object Notation. And I know that sounds like a whole lot, but basically it's the standard for structuring data from a server. So you ask the server, hey, I need this information. The server is going to be like, all right, for sure. And it'll send you the information back in the JSON. It's nice, pretty, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. So don't be too intimidated. And yeah, so if I'm going too fast, too slow, let me know. I don't want to intimidate you guys. But yeah, so right now we're going to go into a demo / project time. So if Bushra can send the link down. The installation process does take a bit, so if you guys, I just recommend installing in the background, and I'll try to go as not as slow as possible, but I'll try to go at a good pace, so you guys can understand what's going on. And you guys want me to stop or repeat something, just let me know. But yeah, so let me now switch my screen. Okay, cool. Can you guys see my screen? All right. So can you guys see Visual Studio Code? All right, cool. So if you guys follow the docs, I'm gonna show you. I can't even see the chat. Okay, I'm gonna show you the process of how you would go about making a React Native app. So I kind of made like a nice little README for you guys if you guys are interested after the hackathon or even right after this workshop. Bunch of resources I thought were super helpful. But the first thing you would do is you would run npm install. So if you guys are following along, you can just inside like a Visual Studio or like a project, like a folder, you would run npm install g global. The g tag is just global, and expo CLI. I'm not going to run this because I already have everything installed, but this is where a lot of people have issues. So I would recommend just doing this like on your own, because we wouldn't have enough time in the workshop, sadly, to like help everybody. But if you're trying to, you can do this. And then after you install that, you want to install React Native CLI. And then a CLI is basically like a command prompt. So like right now we're in the command prompt, right? It's basically a tool we can use in the command prompt to specify what type of stuff we want. It's like the simplest way of explaining it. So now that we have that out the way, what we will do is we'll hit expo init and then the name of the project. For the purpose of this workshop, we'll call it HackMercedVI. So expo is a really cool app that we're going to use shortly to actually see what we're writing like in our code. So super cool. So we'll hit enter, and then you can see that now there's a file here called HackMercedDemo. And before we start, we have to specify if we want like a blank project, do we want like a minimal project. There's a lot of options, but just hit enter because we want the blank project, if it'll let me hit enter. So now I chose the blank template. It's installing everything, and if you, as you guys can see, there's a bunch of files there now, which is good. That's what we want. So we'll let it do its thing. It's installing everything. And yeah, we'll wait. Who doesn't love node modules, right? So yeah, this process takes a bit of time. It should be pretty quick, I hope. I tested it earlier. It was like 10 seconds. It feels like more like 10 seconds. All right, there you go. So cool. So now you should get a message saying your project is ready, and navigate into your directory and run one of the commands. So we're going to cd into our folder, right? And cd is basically a control directory, right? We want to go into that folder. So we're going to go into that folder where all of our code is at. And then, oh, I think I messed up. Yeah, I did. Okay, hold on. Then we run npm start. My bad. Oh, I guess it worked. We'll find out. Okay. So, let's find out. We're gonna do some fixes on the fly. So, can you guys see my screen? It should be like a notification stuff. It's like the first time I'm actually using this. Okay. So are you guys able to see my screen, my phone screen, right? Yeah. So this is my actual phone. So Expo has like this really cool app. I'll showcase it right now. It's called Expo Go. And it's really cool because you can write like React Native code and actually just like scan the QR code and it gets downloaded straight to your phone. No USB cables, no nothing, which I think is super cool. So I'm gonna hit scan an Expo QR code, and over my computer you can see the QR code, and I actually just scanned it right now. So as you can see, it's updating, and you can see now, open up app.js to start working on your app. It's pretty cool, right? We already have an app. So the really cool thing about Expo and why I really like it is if we go to app.js, I'll try my best to have this side by side, is if, for example, I just like add text to app.js and I refresh my app, it's refreshing. And now you can see that the change was done immediately, which I think is really cool. So if you're trying to see how like a color looks like on your app, or like how a certain type of font looks like, super quick, super efficient, which is like a big reason why a lot of people like it. It's called hot reloading. It's very common. If you ever worked with like React just for websites, it's the same exact thing. That's cool, right? So for this workshop, I want to focus on using an API to kind of just populate our app. It's gonna be super quick, super low level, just so if you guys want to work with React Native and like work with APIs, you guys have like some understanding how to do so. So cool. So we're gonna get into coding. Does anybody have any questions so far before I get into it? I know I'm kind of going a bit fast. No? All right. So the biggest thing for React Native is that our code right now, the one you guys saw on my phone over here, it exists in the app.js file. So like I mentioned earlier, all of our content is JavaScript, right? So this right here is all JavaScript. So for the context of our workshop, we'll be working on this file. So if you guys are following along, don't worry about everything else. So the first thing we want to do is right now, as you can see, our app is a function, and I hope you guys like I can explain in detail. But there's a difference between a function and class, right? So they both have, and in terms of React, they're both pretty similar. But for for our workshop, we want a class. So all we need to do is delete the function part. Then when hit class, you're gonna see a lot of error messages. Don't worry, it happens. You're gonna delete the parentheses, you can do extends and React dot component, and then that's the first step. So I don't know why it's doing that, but we'll get to it. So now what we want to do is we want to fetch data from this endpoint, and I'm just going to drag it over here for simplicity. But basically, we have this endpoint right here, reactnative.dev/movies.json, right? So our goal as developers right now, it's our challenge for the workshop. We want to contact this website, this endpoint, and get the name of all of these movies, right? So Star Wars, Back to the Future, The Matrix, Inception, Interstellar, right? So that's our goal. And the really cool thing is you can apply this to like anything. So if you're working on like a project, you want to get like COVID-19 data from like an endpoint, it's the exact same thing. I'm just using movies because it's like pretty simple. But yeah, so like I mentioned JSON earlier, this is what you would get if you were contacting the server, right? You have a title, you have a description tag, you have like a movies array. So it's pretty cool, simple, it's very clean. So like as a developer, you can kind of pick and choose what you want. If you wanted to sort them by release years, you can totally do that, but we're just focusing on the title. So yeah, so the first thing we want to do is we're going to write constructor. So since it's a class, right, we have constructors, and we're going to pass in the properties of the constructor. So we're going to call super props. This is just kind of like, I wouldn't really worry about it too much. All I'm doing is calling the constructor. And then we're going to do this dot state is equal to is loading true, and source, we're going to call that null. So, and then we're just going to add a little extra right there. And then in our import, we're going to add activity. Can I type? activity indicator. So seems like a lot. Activity indicator. So have you guys like ever like gone on like an app or something? You have like a little loading screen or for like Instagram or Facebook or whatever. That's the same thing with activity indicator is. Since we're going to be calling the API, right, like an endpoint, it might take some time for us to get that data. So all we're doing here is getting activity indicator, so it loads, and is loading is just, is our app still loading? Is it still getting the data? We're going to set that to true. And source, we're going to set that to null. Source is just where are we calling our data? Where are we getting all this information? So that's the first part. So then now we're going to call component did mount. So component did mount is basically saying, okay, was there no errors when we installed the app? If there isn't any errors, I want you guys to do this. So we're gonna return fetch. Fetch is basically it'll just fetch content from a specific like link. So like when you make an API call, this is how you make an API call in fetch. There's more complicated ways of doing it if you want to do like post request, but this is very simple. It's just one line. So we're going to do return fetch. So right now we're actually able to get that content we saw over here. So we're basically calling this link right here. And so you could just replace it with whatever you want. So then next thing we're going to do is we're going to do then response. We're going to get that response, and then we want to convert it to JSON just to make sure, want to be safe. Because JSON's pretty popular, but it's not the norm. I've seen other people like get weird stuff from servers, but we just want to make sure we convert it to JSON, right? Because it'll make our lives easier as developers. And then we want to get that response JSON, and we want to, whenever we get that response, we want to change the state, right? Because that means we finally got it. So next step is we're gonna change the state. And all we need to do now is make sure is loading is set to false. And our source is now response JSON.movies. So I did .movies because we basically got the JSON, right? We said, all right, we're getting the JSON stored in this variable. And what do we want to get? What's our source? We want .movies. Where is the link? So yeah, .movies is this array right here. That's what we want to access. And so we can go more into depth later, or like later in the workshop. So return fetch. I'm just making sure my parentheses are in the right spot. Response. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, so then once we do that, we want to do a catch. So in case we get like some sort of error, we don't want our app to break, right? So we're gonna just do a catch, and if we do get an error, we're just gonna console log it. So we're gonna console log error, hit enter, and then make sure we close that. Cool. So now, since we are doing a class, it's like a very specific thing, but we have to do a render function. And basically all the content we had here, you're gonna just closing brace and opening brace right here. And then that should fix our issue right there. So cool. So now we're gonna just delete this text. Oh, sorry about that right there. And so now we're gonna see test or text is loaded. So if this should hopefully run, and as you can see, there it is. Text is loaded. All right, that's cool, right? But where's the movie data, right? That's what we came here for. So this is kind of where it gets a little bit complicated. So, but now we know that we were able to call that data, right? And didn't like crash. So that's a good part. We're almost there. We're halfway there. So it's also very typical. Like I know that like there's a lot of stuff going on. Since keep in mind React is always constantly updating. So even just like having like if I just delete like that semicolon, it's gonna freak out, right? Because it's like, you're missing a semicolon. So just I wouldn't worry about it too much until you like refresh and like look at the app. Then I would worry about it. So cool. All right, so now here's the fun part, hopefully. So now we want to display the data. So the first part is we're gonna, once our app starts, right, it's gonna call the data, but we want to make sure that the user isn't just like waiting. So we're gonna make the nice little animation. So we're gonna call this.state. Remember, state is just for our component. So we remember we declared is loading and source. Man, these notifications be popping off. I apologize for that. So we're gonna call this.state that is loading. This.state is just referring to this right here. So nothing too crazy, I hope. And then we're gonna return. So the cool thing about React is that you can return components like however you want, kind of like a function, right? When you have like when you're coding, you can return different outputs. Same exact idea of React Native. You can return different like content depending on what's going on. So what we want to do here is just we want to pass in a view. A view is basically kind of like I would just say like a component where you can store an image, or like a container. It's just like a small little box where you can throw in content. It's like the best way I can like describe it. If you guys are familiar with like HTML, it's exactly like a div. And so inside of this like container, we want to throw in the activity indicator. This activity indicator is just our loading screen. So nothing too crazy. And then all we need to do is just have the / right there. There you go. So if basically if our content is still loading, we want to throw in that splash screen so it's like loading, right? And then else, right? Basic programming stuff right here. If else, you know, my email's if else jet, so you guys already know. But it's basic stuff. So we're gonna let movies equal this. This is where it gets a little bit complicated. Let in JavaScript just assign a variable. So we're assigning the movie variable to the content we get back from the API call. So this.state.source. I know it's going to be a lot of dots. So we're just calling this source right here. Once we get the response, remember we're changing it over time. So hopefully it should be the movies. So we're calling it over there. We're doing map. Anyone that's done JavaScript, do you guys know what map is? I know Hyro knows. Or you want to speak? You can say no. Yeah, I'm just putting you on the spot right now. No? Damn. All right, so basically map, what it does is it'll take content and it'll just map it, I know, crazy, to a value and a key. But it's, yeah, you can see it just accepts an argument and it'll just map into like an array. And so it's very helpful if you're trying to like sort through content with a value and the key. That's basically all we're doing. Cool. So we're still not done. Once we want to map it, but we want a specific way to map it, right? We want to, it's basically a for loop, right? So we're going through all that content. So once we map it, we want to return something, right? So we're going to return another view and we're going to pass in the key. And this like little curly brace right here is a variable. So you see how like right now it's not highlighted. And if I hit Y, it's like highlighted. It's literally just passing in the variable. So we're passing in the key and we're passing in styles. I wouldn't worry too much about the styles. This is just right here. It's like CSS stuff. We'll play around with it a bit towards the end. But we're gonna call item. I'm gonna show you guys how to make your own custom CSS in a bit. But you would just call it like that. And then inside of our view, right, we want to have some text. And so what did we want to display from this JSON? You guys remember? Let me showcase it. What did we want to showcase? We wanted to showcase the title, right? So the really cool way about it is all you need to reference is this name right here, title. We can do release here, that's fine. But all we need to do here is do val.title. Kind of gave it away to you guys right there. So we're passing it in, and then from this movie JSON, the code's like, all right, let me see where the title is at. All right, oh, here's the title. What's the content? Star Wars. Let me make a div, put some text on it, slap it on there, and keep going. Right? That's the whole like map section. That's what we're doing. It's gonna keep going. Oh, I see title. Okay, Back to the Future. Let me add it to the view. Let's keep going. And so we're gonna do that hopefully 5 times. And that's like the biggest like part right here. And then we just need to close off this right here. So we just, oh, not what I wanted to do. So there you go. Now inside of our app, if it's not crashed, we'll find, oh, it's crashed. Never mind, not gonna show you guys. Now we want to change this text, right? Because we want to showcase the movies, right? That's the whole point why we're here, right? So what we need to do is we're going to use the text, wait, oh yeah, my bad. Okay, so we can remove the status bar. We don't need it. We're over it. All we need to do is like the whole shebang right here is we just call movies. Okay, so, and then that should be it. Let's see how it looks like. So right now we have errors. That's fine. It's normal. Okay, so I cannot find style. So I meant to put styles. I think that should be it. Hold on, where is that? All right, so just so you guys can see, it's fine. It's fine. We're almost there. It's part of. Well, it's a comeback season right now. Instant.render. Activity. It's fine. I don't know why I have that error. Export constructor pods. Yeah, well, hold on. We're almost here. We're good. Don't worry, guys. We'll fix it. I'm just trying to see where my error is at. View styles at container. Activity indicator. Boom, boom. Else at movies. Return. Oh, I think. Oh, okay, I think this else is supposed to be here. Bro, please. Okay, hold on. That's fine. I'm just going to. I had a clean copy just in case this happened, and I gotta be prepared, you know. So it's the same exact code, but we're just gonna copy it. I don't know why that error is happening. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. Hopefully it should fix it. So I'm just going to copy it in there. That hopefully should work. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know what the error is. That's so weird. It's the exact same thing. So now, see, there you go. We have the movie titles, right? Star Wars, Back to the Future, The Matrix, Inception, Interstellar. right? Personally, my favorite Star Wars, but you guys can argue in the comments. You already know. Um, but yeah, that's pretty cool, right? So we were able to just get this, like, I don't say ugly, but there's no pizzazz, there's nothing. We were able to contact this like endpoint, get the titles, and display in our app. I think that's pretty cool if you ask me. Um, but it kind of looks ugly, not gonna lie. So let's spice it up a bit. Yeah, it's really hard to have this on the side, but on my phone, it's like updating constantly. So right now, so if you remember, we named it item, style is the item. And so right here we have a little container called container. We're gonna do the same exact thing, but call it item. And usually you can have like a separate like CSS file, but since it's a small app, we can just make the style sheet like this. But you can also feel free to make like an app.css and you can link it exactly like a website. So it's pretty cool. So like for example, if I do I think you can do like font. Let's do Comic Sans, guys. Let's go crazy. Can I do Comic Sans? Let's find out. Oh, I can't. Okay, it's fine. We'll just do, let's do Flex 1. So this is the exact same thing you would do for CSS. So it's super cool. If you guys ever worked with it, like worked with like CSS, see right there, we already got a flex box and you can see that it looks a lot nicer, a lot cleaner, but they're kind of spaced out. I don't like how it looks, so let's keep going. We're gonna do align self. Don't worry too much about this. It's basic CSS, is not super important. My biggest thing is for you guys to learn like how to call API. So all right, so I want them to stretch. Basically, align self is stretch as far as the screen size allows you to. So now they're a lot more stretched, you see, but now they're really spaced out, so we gotta keep going. So I'm gonna set a margin, set that equal to 10, and then I'm gonna align it to the center. Align items, center. So now if we check doing, there you go, it's centered. But I still think we can do a little bit better. So next thing we need to do is we need to justify content, and we're going to also do censor. And then the last two things we want to do is we want to make a little border around our views. Remember we made the views. This is where it's kind of important to like remember to have a views, because you can make borders around your views. So we're going to set a bottom width, and we're going to also set a bottom color. And we're going to just do, I think you can do red. Is that it? Let's find out. I did gray earlier, but all right, cool. So now if we open up our app, there it is. Now we have, it looks a lot nicer, right? So now we have Star Wars, Back to the Future, The Matrix, Inception, Interstellar. Now we have a whole app right there. And what's really cool too is if you guys want to, you guys can actually scan this if you have the Expo app right here, and you can actually run the same app I'm running on my phone right now. And I probably should have mentioned that earlier, but it's pretty cool. So like if you want to showcase like an app to your friend or something, all you really need to showcase is this QR code, and they can have access to your app without even downloading anything, which is pretty cool. So yeah, we can change like anything. We can change this to blue. To change it to blue, I like gray. And yeah, that's basically it. It was supposed to be like a short workshop just so you guys get understanding of React Native, just get a feel for the technology. But yeah, now you guys have like a small little project you guys can showcase. Super helpful if you guys are trying to like work with React Native or make a Android app. If you're not able to figure it out, I definitely would check out React Native. Super cool. Look how in only like 30 minutes we have a quick app that calls an API. We're able to format it super quickly, as you saw. Yeah, it's pretty cool. The other cool thing I like about it is kind of like like it's like a joke, but if you actually shake your phone, it actually like showcases like you can reload, you can copy the link. It like shows me like my IP. Don't dox me, please. Um, uh, and it shows you like the performance monitor. It's like it's pretty cool. You have like so much stuff. Um, like element inspector. I can go home. There you go. Yeah. And so now it even has a HackMerced demo here. So if I want to, I can just reopen it, just like that. Super cool. You can, if you don't have a phone, you can even use like an emulator, and it would behave just like this. But I like using my phone. But yeah, that's basically all I had to showcase for you guys. Is there like any questions, comments, concerns, um, anything you guys want to say? I take compliments too. Don't worry. No, no. All right, yeah. But yeah, basically, if you guys want the code, it's on the GitHub link on the repo. Let me just drag it over here. I think Busher sent it already, but if you guys want the link, you guys want like a quick like app to use for your project, maybe just take it apart. Feel free to use the React Native workshop, and we even have like the whole README all over here. So if you guys need steps, I have put everything there. Super helpful links. I put Expo, React Native, the navigation. So if you guys want like separate tabs, definitely recommend checking it out. In my opinion, the documentation for React Native is really good. So yeah, that's basically it. If there's no questions, I'm gonna end the workshop, guys. No questions. All right, we're balling. All right, well, thank you guys for coming. I do appreciate it. Good luck with your projects. I can't wait to see the submissions. And yeah, I think that's it. All right, bye everybody.
Hey, join Discord.